But as I was beginning to mention, these things are in a constant state of flux. Publishers are being bought out by different publishers, and it's causing lots of hassle, let's put it politely, for us trying to keep on track, on top of all these things. Just a couple weeks ago, EBSCO hosts Taylor and Francis did some rearranging, is the best term that I could get from their tech support, of their resources, and for a solid week and a half we were having absolutely no access to Taylor and Francis titles. And this was also occurring at other schools in the local umbrella. And eventually, not to my satisfaction, but they did get back to me to saying that it was all temporary and all this, and things were working themselves out. And they have in certain instances. But anyways, the point I'd like to get at here is that if you are noticing access problems, you can't find a database that you like, or full text services and returning full text, or you just seem to be caught in endless loop of abstracts, just contact me with the citation information and, if possible, the database where all this stuff originated. I try to be vigilant as much as possible with this stuff, but a lot of times it's more or less retroactive. So if a citation doesn't work, it's because somewhere along the line it wasn't configured properly, or some holdings have changed and we just haven't gotten around to catching up with it. As an example of this, the MetaPress Routledge publishers changed their URL for their web page to metapress.com, and it wasn't in our proxy data. So for a few days there after that change had happened, we didn't have online access to some MetaPress titles. And I had to call tech support and ask them what URL is all this stuff on now. The lady told me, metapress.com and on. I said, well, our proxy server means the domain name changes and all this sort of thing. So we are half a step behind in certain instances, but we're trying to bridge that gap. And I do promise if you have a citation problem with the database, I'll get back to you within a day. And if not with a solution as to what caused it, a definite explanation as to what was causing the problem. So on that note, I will pass it over to Barbara.
I was just going to go over some of most of you have already heard this, but I don't think it hurts to go over it a little bit just to remind people about some of the changes that the new OPAC has to offer. And the main thing I wanted to make was that the feedback is really important. In order to improve it and find out what works and what doesn't work, I really need to have feedback from the students and from the library staff. So if students make comments on anything that they don't like or they'd like to see changed, by all means forward it to me, and then the OPAC committee will take it under advisement and try and make the OPAC as useful as possible to people. And the banner is basically, I talked about this in my last session too, where the OPAC banner doesn't have the drop-down menus. And I know a lot of people find those really useful on the home page and throughout the library website, but there was a problem with it working in the OPAC because it was limited to a size, and the OPAC has to be able to expand and contract depending on what data is being displayed. So we're going to work on that, and hopefully by January we'll be able to get some drop-down menus back into the OPAC. The PIN criteria, I wanted to go over this too because there's a few things that a lot of people aren't aware of. The PIN should be between 6 and 30 characters. It can only be alphanumeric characters, no special characters like $sign or asterisk, and no repetitive strings. You can't use ABC, ABC, or 010101, okay? So just kind of keep that in mind. And I am updating the help pages as I don't have time to go through the website, so if you see something that you think I may have overlooked or missed, don't hesitate to let me know. Okay? And I wanted to remind you about the multi-limits, the ability to choose multiple limits when you're in the advanced keyword page. You see them highlighted there. By holding the control key, you can select multiple limits at once without having to go back and redo the search. And the request button Just a reminder that that button is only displayed for the items that can be requested online. If a student needs to request something and can't because the book is supposed to be in the library, but they can't find it on the stacks and they want to place a hold, the circulation desk staff can place a hold where the students can't online. So just remember that as an option. And the reading history. This is something else that was new with the latest update. But in order for the student or faculty or user to be able to retain their reading history, they have to opt into it. So on my library account page, once they've logged in, there's an opt-in button. And if they choose that from that point on, any materials that they check out will be recorded under their record. So then 2 months down the road, if they say, I had a book open, I can't remember what the title or call number was, they'll be able to go back into their reading history and see what it was. But for security feature reasons, the system doesn't automatically retain that information because some people don't want systems retaining what they're reading. So they have to opt into it, and they can always opt out of it once they have.
Barb,
Yeah,
can I just back up one minute?
sure.
The request function, what are you saying?
So you'll notice on the web book packet, when the brief records are displayed, if the book can be requested or a hold can be placed on it, the request button is beside the entry at that point. So if a book is signed out, the request button would be there. But if the book is on the upstairs on the floors, there wouldn't be a request button because they can't place a hold on something that's supposedly available.
Right, but you said you could override that somehow?
Well, what we want them to do is to go upstairs and get the book for themselves.
Right.
But sometimes students go upstairs and they can't find it. And they might do that a couple of days and say, I can't find the book. The system won't let them place a hold because it's in the shelf, on the stacks. So if they come to the circulation desk, circulation staff can place a hold, and then the hold staff will go looking for that item that should be on the shelves. Okay? Yeah.
I need to mention that it's imperative that people know that the students should look for different places. A lot of times they think, I'll just tell them.
Well, yeah, and we have no way of knowing whether they look. I mean, we usually ask them to have you look for this, you know. But a lot of times I run into students upstairs on the stacks and they say, I can't find this. Can you help me? And you go to help them and they were nowhere near the right place in the stacks. You know, so yeah, we do want them. We're not obviously going to be retrieving books on a regular basis for them.
The first year students especially are incredibly naive about how to look for books in the library counter system. They really don't have a clue when they go upstairs. They'll just look at the end of the aisle and think that they'll see the number range and say, oh, those are the only numbers
Yeah.
that I'm going to find in that stack. They just don't have a clue. So we have an invariable amount this fall saying that they cannot find books. And on the weekends occasionally, one of the people, if we're not that busy, they have gone upstairs and the books are there.
Yeah, yeah, most times they are. I mean, a lot of the holds that we get, because we go looking once a hold is placed, we'll go looking the next day. And 90% of the time the books are on the stacks too.
Yeah.
But you have to make them, you know, try and look for it, because like I said, we spend a lot of time retrieving books